Rainbow Six Siege is arguably the hardest first-person shooter in the world for you to learn, and there is a huge learning curve that makes climbing the ranks extremely difficult. So in today's video, I'll be giving you my tips and advice to climb out of every single rank in Rainbow Six Siege. These tips will be based on my experience playing in and talking to players of all ranks. Just so you can understand who I am and understand my background, my name is Beastmodplayer. I have been a content creator for this game for the past 2 or 3 years, and I've been playing the game for over 6 years. I used to be a gold player on console, and over the years I grinded into platinum, switched to PC, and eventually managed to hit champion. I have about 6,000 hours across all platforms, so I feel I'm in a unique position to give you the best advice I can no matter the platform you're playing on. Anyways, now that you understand my background and my credentials, let's go ahead and get started with the ranks. Now let's start off the video with players in the copper to bronze area. Typically the biggest issue I see with players at this rank is that they need to spend time improving their mechanical skill. And this is something that's simply just going to take time for you to build up. Obviously the amount of time this takes will depend on how experienced you are in FPS games in general, but things like learning how to place your crosshair at head level, learning to lean in the right direction with holding angles, figuring out the recoil patterns of your most used weapons, improving your ability to track opponents, and finally changing your keybinds and sensitivity for the most comfortable experience is going to be key when you are at this rank. You're going to feel overwhelmed at this time by the amount of operators and the amount of maps in the game. It's almost inevitable. But if you just focus on improving in these aspects, that is all that is really necessary to climb out of copper and bronze. If I had to give you 4 main things to practice, I would say the first thing I would do is focus on using the targets in the shooting range to learn recoil patterns. This can easily be done by just dumping your magazine into a target, taking note of the direction the spray of the weapon goes, and then practicing pulling your mouse or pulling your thumbstick in that direction. Then the second thing I recommend you use for practice is using the target training drills to improve your crosshair placement on the maps you'll actually be playing in ranked. I use this drill all the time as a quick warm-up before ranked just for this reason. Then the third thing I'd recommend you practice is using different aim training drills in the shooting range to improve your tracking, flicking, and just to start putting all of the rest of the stuff you've practiced to use. You can use these settings in the shooting range to practice your tracking, these settings to practice your flicks, and these settings to practice everything at once. As long as you dedicate yourself and you take your training seriously, I guarantee you will see improvement, and eventually you'll be able to climb out of copper and then even bronze. Anyways, now that you find yourself in silver or gold, expectations are now a lot higher. This is when you need to start learning more about the operators and maps in Siege if you want to rank up, and you need to continue to improve on your mechanical skill as well by continuing to practice. For the operator side of things, at this level, to rank up, you need to understand what each operator does and how to counter them at a minimum. This will likely just take time playing the game, but I have multiple videos explaining how to play every operator and how to counter every operator that I will link in the description below to help you learn a little bit quicker. If you watch these videos and put what you learn into practice, you will learn the operators a lot quicker than everyone else in your rank, which will obviously help you to climb the ranks faster. The same thing applies to maps. Learning how to attack all of the bomb sites, learning how to defend all of the bomb sites, and learning at least the basic callouts is going to be hugely important to help you climb into the next few ranks, and your teammates will expect you to know all of this as well. For learning defensive strategies, I have videos covering the topic extensively on my channel that I can link below, but by just playing the game more, watching other high-level players on YouTube, and by trying different strategies out in custom games, you can eventually learn these things yourself if you please. And for learning how to attack, I have a guide on the topic that can teach you the basics of attacking nearly every map that will make your life a whole lot easier. But for the last thing related to maps, callouts, this is something that you can very easily learn yourself. If you boot up a solo custom game, turn on your compass in the HUD, and walk around the map, you'll notice the callouts of each room will be shown to you. Just doing this will give you enough knowledge to make the callouts and to understand the callouts necessary to win rounds at this level. However, callouts do go deeper than just what's on the compass, and as you continue to climb the ranks, you will need to learn more in-depth callouts. Additionally, what goes hand in hand with knowing callouts is learning to use your knowledge on them combined with cameras and drones to feed your team and yourself info. If you want to rank up to Platinum or Emerald, you have to be using these tools effectively. On attack, droning yourself and your team whenever you enter a room will stop you from being caught off guard by an opponent, and using cams on defense effectively will stop a push from the attack, catching you off guard, and it will help you position yourself accordingly. Now, after learning the basics of all of the operators and all of the maps, if you're still struggling to get out of silver and gold, then you may need to focus on continuing to improve mechanically. Continuing to practice those drills I taught you in the copper and bronze section will help you do this, and then watching your own gameplay back at the end of a session can help you put those drills to practice. This is going to take a lot of self-reflection. Record yourself using OBS and watch your gameplay back. or watch your match replays if that's easier. This will allow you to notice poor crosshair placement, mistakes on positioning, and other problems that you had during that match to then correct it in practice. Now, once you've ranked up to Platinum or Emerald, you are now officially an above average player, and ranking up is going to take a lot of time and an even deeper understanding of everything in the game. Remember those callouts I talked about earlier? Yeah, you need to learn all of them, even the ones that aren't displayed on the compass. I plan on making a video on this in the future, along with callout blueprints for every map to make learning a lot easier, but until then, I'll leave a link in the description to a great video by Garfieldisdoc on the topic to help expedite the learning process for you. Trust me, understanding these calls will make a huge difference in your ability to work together in your team by being able to relay info more quickly and precisely. Now, the second thing I would recommend focusing on in this rank is learning the deeper gameplay mechanics. These include learning the concepts of peeker's advantage, understanding different peeking techniques, and how to best position yourself. Now, if you have no idea what peeker's advantage is, let me fill you in. Peeker's advantage is a concept in basically all online multiplayer FPS games where, since there is ping, the player peeking has the advantage on someone holding an angle. This makes it possible, if you are holding a poor angle, to die without ever seeing the opponent on your screen. I'm sure this has happened to you before, and the way to stop it is to position yourself in a way where you are always swinging the opponent. Let me take you in game to show you what I mean. A lot of players that are newer to Siege will just hold a default angle like this, and this is how they'll hold an angle on a doorway. And this is a terrible idea in Siege. The reason why holding an angle on a doorway like this is a bad idea is because on an online server, ping gives the person swinging an advantage and a faster time to react than the person holding the angle. However, if you have to hold an angle in Siege, there is a way you can do that, and that is by holding a pixel angle. And this is how you should hold angles in Siege. If you're gonna hold an angle, you hold a tight angle like this so you can get the info on the attacker walking in, and then you can pre-fire him as he comes in. Or if he starts pre-firing you because he knows your position, you can just back up and wait for him to swing, and then you can swing as well. But generally in Siege, you don't want to be holding like a default angle like this because it's just going to end up getting you killed in most situations. You always want to position yourself where you're leaning into the angle and you have a slight pixel peek on the guy, so that way when he walks across, you can swing out and pre-fire him as he walks across. As long as you continue to take peeker's advantage into account in deciding how and where to hold an angle, you'll rarely die before seeing your opponent, and you'll give yourself a huge advantage in every gunfight. Same thing applies to learning the peeking techniques, and the main two peeks I think you should learn at this rank are the Shaiiko Peak and the Prone Peak. Shaiiko peeking is a pretty advanced peeking technique that looks something like this. The advantage of a peeking technique like this is that it allows you to gather info on the position of your opponent before swinging them, which can give you a major advantage in a gunfight. And this is what it looks like from the other player's perspective. Now, the way you do a Shaiiko Peak is quite difficult, but you can get it down with a little practice. What you must do at the start of the Shaiiko Peak is lean in the direction you plan to peek. Then you press the walk key in the direction you want to peek. And then once you move past the doorway and you see into the position, you then immediately hit the opposite lean key and movement key. I'll leave a link in the description to a more in-depth tutorial that you can watch on the topic if needed, but if you put all of these steps together and you practice it regularly in custom game or the shooting range, you will get good at it eventually. And for the other peak, the Prone Peak, it is actually a lot easier to do than the Shaiiko Peak. This peak involves you swinging an opponent, and as you're swinging, you then hit the prone key in the middle of your swing. This only works when you know the player is close to what you are peeking, but it will catch them off guard and force them to flick downward to kill you, which can help you win a gunfight in a pinch. And this is especially strong when you have a shotgun in your hands because of the fact that hip firing is so effective on these weapons. Speaking of catching opponents off guard, this relates to understanding positioning, which is the last thing I think a player should focus on in these ranks. In Siege, one of the most important things is understanding how to position yourself in a way where only one player can take a gunfight with you at once. This requires you to take the info on the location of all opponents in the match that you have access to, and then making sure that you are only vulnerable to one of them at a time. This takes practice, and the only way to get better at this is to just play the game and watch your gameplay like I mentioned earlier to help yourself learn from mistakes in positioning. But as long as you're constantly thinking about this in the back of your mind, and every time you change positions, you're constantly thinking about where the opponents are, you should be able to get pretty good at this quickly. Anyways, once you finally find yourself in Diamond, this is where teamwork and your macro gameplay is going to be the biggest thing holding you back. If you want to rank up to champion at this level, one of the biggest things that can help you is finding people to queue with. Meeting players in game that you mess with and adding them, or reaching out on forums, Discord servers, and looking for group posts depending on your platform will help you build up a decent roster of players to queue with and to grow as a player with. And even better, if you already have friends that play Siege, just queuing with them will help you massively. The reason gathering a 5-stack is so important at this level is because it will allow you to have consistent callouts, which is hard to find in solo queue, and it will allow you to get used to each other's playstyles and complement each other. At the diamond level, there are a lot of 5-stacks, and so having a 5-stack of your own will make going against these guys a lot easier. This definitely isn't necessary to hit champion, but it will make things a whole lot easier for you. Outside of just gathering a team, mastering macro gameplay is hugely important to rank up from diamond. Macro gameplay, to put it simply, is gathering all of the info that your team has access to via callouts, making a mental picture of that in your mind, and then positioning yourself and making decisions based off of that picture. This is a super hard concept to grasp for many players, and it's one of the biggest issues that holds a lot of players back. This can be difficult to accomplish for a lot of players due to tunnel vision, the large amount of things going on in any given round, and because of the stress on the mind a round of Siege can cause. Getting good at this is just something that comes with time. As you get more experience and you spend more time at the higher level, this will just come naturally to you. As long as you continue to watch your gameplay back, and as long as you continue to practice and keep the mindset that I've taught you throughout this video, you should be able to get this down pretty quickly. And another thing that goes hand in hand with this is noticing holes in an opponent's strategy. Being able to drone out the defender setup, get info from your teammates, and then make the right decision on how to press forward with that info is huge. It will allow you and your team to adapt better to your opponents, which is vital at the higher level. But the real key to ranking up at diamond level is continuing to practice, watching your own gameplay, and just simply playing the game a lot. And eventually, as you put in the time, you can hit champion. Most players that are in diamond are already mechanically gifted enough to hit champion. The only thing holding them back is just time, practice, and putting together a good team. Anyways, that about wraps up today's video. Hopefully I was able to help you on your grind to champion. And if you have any other tips for players, make sure to leave them in the comments down below. If you enjoyed today's video, I make Siege content just like this twice a week, so go subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter if you don't want to miss the next upload. If you want to watch another video just like this one of me popping up on your screen right now, where I give you tips on how to win your gunfights more consistently, that I'm sure you'll enjoy. I'll see you next time, friends, and peace.